This is one of the machines that Nixon had installed to record his office conversations. His tape recordings became the evidence that the president was party to the conspiracy to obstruct justice in the Watergate case. The courts had ordered him to hand over the first of the tapes that the Watergate Special Prosecutor had demanded. The president's attorney, Fred Buzard, went through them.
The lawyers started to listen to the subpoenaed tapes in preparation for turning them over, and then Buzard told me, "Oh my God, we've got a huge gap in one of the tapes."
The tape in question was the first recorded conversation between the president and his chief of staff, Bob Haldemann, after Nixon's men broke into the Democrats' headquarters. At the exact moment they turned to Watergate, their voices were obliterated by a hum lasting 18.5 minutes. Nixon's secretary, Rosemary Woods, said she must have erased the tape by accident while transcribing it. She had kept her foot on the tape recorder's pedal control while answering the telephone. The prosecutors asked her to reenact her story.
You had a unique opportunity to be the person who examined, I'm not sure whether it was direct or cross, but Rosemary Wood.
Well, technically, I questioned her over a number of days, but on 2 different hearings. The first time it was on cross. The White House called her as a witness. Just if you want to go back, around Halloween, Buzard admitted that there were 2 tapes missing that they were finally going to turn over to us. And one was the June 20th tape. There were 2 different reasons. One wasn't recorded because it was a conversation between the president and Mitchell from the private residence in the White House, and that wasn't on the taping system. And one, supposedly, the tape machine goes all day. It's a reel-to-reel, old-fashioned kind of thing. When one tape, physical reel, is finished, it transfers to a second machine until it can be replaced with a new tape. The transfer didn't happen, and the conversation we wanted was on the part that didn't get recorded. So we're having a hearing about that. Rose was simply a chain of custody witness, talking about how she had handled it so that we could prove whether someone had done something to make those tapes evaporate. And it turned out to end, well, we couldn't prove anything had happened, so we went about our business. Then the day before Thanksgiving, November 21st, Buzard again calls and says, "Well, whoops, there's a third problem. The tape has an 18.5 minute gap, the June 20th tape, which was the first one on our subpoena, just physically the first one." And Judge Chirica said, "We're going to have another hearing in public, in court, to find out about it." And Buzard said, "We can't explain it. It doesn't seem to be an accident. And we think that Rosemary Wood should get her own lawyer, and she might be able to explain it." And because I had questioned her in the first hearing, I was going to question her in the second. But in the second, the burden of proof was put on us, and we were calling witnesses. So on the second time, I was actually doing direct. But because she's a hostile witness, it didn't make much difference. It was still, I was allowed the leeway of leading questions. Leon Jaworski, in his book, says that actually he insisted that I take it the second time. Honestly, till I read his book, I've always assumed that I would have taken it because she was my witness, and once it's your witness, you use, forever she's your witness. So he takes credit for assigning me her the second time. The first time he wasn't even special prosecutor.
Jail yesterday, you shouldn't want it.
Jaworski's team was ready to proceed with a massive indictment against the key Watergate conspirators.
Was she credible?
No.
I know, I see.
Not even remotely.
There's I've seen a scene, maybe it was a recreation where she, in fact, there's a picture of her trying to do things. Was that were you part of that?
Yes. When I questioned her in court, I asked her to demonstrate. And you know how small a witness stand is, so a witness box is this big, has a flat ledge. The tape machine was put on the ledge. The earphones that she used were put there. She put the earphones on. I asked her a question, and she went, "What?" I said, "Well, if you can't hear me, you'll have to take them off and for purposes of this demonstration." So she put them down next to the machine. Then I said, "What did you do?" She said, "Well, I pushed a button." And I said, "And then the phone rang." She said, "Yes." I said, "What did you do then?" She said, "Well, first I had to," and she had her foot on a pedal because the only way to make it rotate was to keep your foot on the pedal. So well, before I did anything when the phone rang, I had to take off these. And the mere movement of her pointing, her foot came off the pedal.
Oh, really?
And I said, "And the tape just stopped because your foot's off the pedal." And she said, well, it's different in my office. It's different here because I'm not doing anything." So I said, "Well, Your Honor, maybe we should continue this in her office." And he said yes, and the White House had no objections, strangely enough. And we adjourned court to go to her office, which was the first time I'd ever been in the White House. And it's as dramatic as you've ever envisioned, you know, walking up that driveway that the cameras are always on and going in. And the pictures are the result of that examination in her office. And they were introduced in evidence, and they were immediately the front page of every newspaper, Time magazine, Newsweek magazine, and it does show a very petite Miss Woods showing how she kept her foot on the pedal. She had already punched the button. Her foot's on the pedal. She's holding on here, and it's her left foot on the pedal, by the way, which makes it even stranger. She then pushes away. Now, if it was her right foot, you could imagine being able to go like that.
Yeah.
But she was using her left foot,
Yeah.
and she's reaching 6 feet back to try to pick up the phone, talk on the phone, and she says because she kept her foot on the pedal the entire time, it must have erased. And in retrospect, I mean, nobody believed that. It was physically impossible. Since then, I've talked to an expert in the Euro machine who says it is technically impossible. She would have had to push 2 buttons, not just the record button. She would have had to push 2. And they aren't adjacent, so she couldn't have hit one with both.
Right.
She would have had to use 2 fingers. There's no way she could have done it otherwise. Probably she would have had to use 2 hands. So it couldn't be a mistake there. And nobody ever believed it was true. I have been doing some study of this because I'm working on a book now. And it took me 40 years, but hopefully I have more insight and more valuable things to say than if I had written it back in the 70s. And I think she may have been framed. I think she may have been framed. Or she volunteered to take the blame. Either way, I can't believe, I think she may have thought at first that she did part of it. But she can't have thought she did it that way. There's no possible way she could have held her foot down and reached the phone. And she said she took notes. She got the phone. She picked up a pad of paper and pen. Even if she wheeled back, you would take your foot off the pedal.
Yeah.
So, no, it's not a true story.
Although the prosecutors never charged anyone with causing the 18-and-a-half-minute gap, the episode was damaging to Nixon.